Basketball fans, I am Akil Augustine and I am a ball-aholic. That's why I host the show, The Hangout, here on NBATV Canada. Canada's home to chop up and break down the top basketball stories. And every week I invite a whole host of basketball experts to talk about the game we love so much. Okay, so to my left in reality, to my right on TV, Michael Grange, the author of this book that I'm holding in my hand right here along with Dave Feschuk. It is a biography of Canada's top dog on the basketball court, Steve Nash. And you also recently did a really good documentary on Vince Carter called The Reimagining of Vince Carter. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll talk about the documentary in a second, but I got to get to the rest of our guests quickly. Got him my right-hand man, right? Coming through this show. He's become one of my best friends in the world, one of the best writers, one of the best radio personalities.
After Grange, of course.
Yes. You know him on one-on-one on TSN Radio. That's my man, Dwayne Sweets Watson. And this is a young man I met in my basement a few years ago, told me he had a dream of starting Canada's first national recruiting service, put all the kids on the big board and let the states know how good the game is out here. Ladies and gentlemen, Tarek Spiet of North Pole Hoops. Thank you, Tarek.
Appreciate you having me. Thank you.
All right, first things first, watching the Raps versus the Mavs. DeMar goes off for 40. We loved it. Of course, big win. But right after the game, Sportsnet airs The Reimagining of Vince Carter, a documentary that caught a lot of us by surprise. People opening up about the process of Vince coming and Vince going, and you were there to conduct those interviews. So quickly, walk us through the experience of that documentary.
Yeah, it was just a chance that Sportsnet took. I said, look, Vince Carter is not the same guy in year 16 in the NBA that he was when he came to Toronto, when he left Toronto, and let's examine that legacy according to the body of work, and reached out to Vince and let him know what we were trying to do. And it was kind of, he was open to it. We were inspired by the reaction to Vince Carter I got this summer when I was working with the Canadian national team guys, and the impact he'd had in inspiring them. And it was a great exercise, and you know, I can't take credit. It's a team effort whenever you do anything on TV, but between that and the article I wrote in Sportsnet magazine, I think there's a different look, a more complete look at what Vince Carter meant and how we feel about him now.
You guys closed the documentary with a great quote, and it was a question that you posed to Vince Carter. You basically, called him the godfather of Canadian basketball. So I'm gonna throw this to you, Dwayne, as a guy who came up kind of around the same time myself. Anybody who's doing anything, whether it's Drake, whether it's the kids on the team, anybody who came up in Toronto, we were all watching Vince during that time from '99 to about 2003. Is he the godfather?
Yeah, I think he definitely put basketball on the map for this city in this country. I mean, in terms of I was a season ticket holder when they made that run. He was everything and more. He was exciting, electrifying, and he made the world recognize Toronto as a basketball market, and I definitely agree with that.
Tarek, you're there now with the kids of the new generation. Are they still connected to that Vince Carter plot line?
Definitely. I think ultimately everyone knows who Vince is, whether they're from this generation or the one before. And the biggest thing with Vince, I feel like he's inspired a country during his run. And now, moving on into the past few years, guys like Andrew Nicholson, Tristan Thompson, Corey Joseph, etc. Wiggins coming up now. All these guys are now playing that role of, Drizzy, you mentioned too, inspiring that next group.
All right, so one of the points that you guys really tried to drive home in the documentary is that a lot of Raptors fans are kind of divorced from the history of the team. And that even though, we booed Vince Carter, we kind of, separated him from the history of the Raptors, but his tenure was the highest point for the Toronto Raptors. And you guys kind of stressed the fact that maybe Raptors fans need to, reopen those pages. Are you, as two Raptor fans, are you guys welcome to reopening the pages and kind of giving up the hatchet that you have for Mr. Vince Carter?
I can move on from the booing. I think the booing is a little overdone. It's 9 years ago.
Three teams removed.
Yeah, and he's done so much for this franchise, and he is like the best, highest Raptor ever. But he did give up on the team.
Yes.
And he quit on the team, and there's rumors of him telling the other teams plays, and the way he went out was like, that's what makes it sting a bit. And I'm not saying I'm still holding a grudge at him because it's a long time ago, but I think we got to kind of put that in context. I mean, he did a lot of great things, but he went out in a bad way.
Tariq, is it unforgivable?
I think it's unforgivable. The way he went out, he ultimately, the fact that he's a talented player and what he's done for the city, that's great. But ultimately, how we look at his legacy as Raptors fans, as people from Canada, it is a stinger for sure.
Okay, well.
You got to read the article, man. You're missing all the key details.
I'll be checking in on that. I got to be checking in on that.
And of course, we got to shout out #Grange43. You're doing that with the Raptors broadcast now. Send Mike your questions. But on the other side, DeMar Derozan, 40 points against Vince Carter and the Dallas Mavericks. Vince did get that one little leaner squeezer on him. But, I mean, DeMar Derozan is the new guy for the Raptors, kind of the face of the franchise because they've kind of been middling since Vince Carter has left. I'll start with you, Tarek. Can Vince become the new face of the team?
DeMar.
He's got. Sorry, DeMar. I keep doing that.
Fixated, man. The guy had an
fixated.
impact. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
That's the point he's driving home. But can DeMar kind of become that face? I know a lot of people are looking ahead at Jonas Valanciunas, but DeMar's the guy right now, giving you 40.
I think what happened with Vince, it happened very quickly. With DeRozan, it's more of a steady incline. We've seen the biggest one this year. Mentioned it before, his work ethic. I love it. And I think when you have such a dedication to your craft,